Good evening and welcome to this edition of DeFacto Review, a weekly roundup of the biggest stories shaping Mongolia. Here with us tonight is our commentator and economist Jargat of DeFacto.
Good evening.
And my name is Ditlo. We are live on Facebook at V Television and we want to hear your thoughts and comments, so send us your comments on Twitter with hashtag Jargat_DeFacto. Coming up on the program, ADB approved an $80 million loan to help transform the Gir areas in Ulaanbaatar into affordable eco-districts. 340,000 tons of coal have gone missing from Tawantotla. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi paid a state visit to Mongolia last week. So moving on to our first topic of the night is the ADB's support of the eco-districts. So currently in Mongolia, around a third of the Mongolian population lives in the rural urban Gir areas where there's poor sanitation, inadequate solid waste management, and limited water supply, which has led to a lot of health and environmental hazards. And as well as a lot of these areas are highly dependent upon coal and biofuels as a source of heating and energy, which has contributed to the large emission of carbon dioxide emissions. So how successful do you think this eco-district project will be?
I hope this time this project will succeed because it's run by ADB, which will enforce better public governance, which unfortunately not the case when the projects are implemented by the state or state-owned companies in Mongolia. So I hope it will work. And plus it is also under the scheme of IMF program. Some $500 million comes with additional $5 billion from different sources, including ADB. And it will succeed because also it's first time address the issue of the problems of low-income people. It's first time, especially the target of the project is affordable housing, which unfortunately was not the case for last almost 10 years construction boom in Mongolia. They are going to make 20 districts, eco-districts in different parts of area, though they have not announcing the locations. But I hope it is done, already clear. Total $570 million will be needed, and 800 million just soft loan from ADB. Another $95 million as a loan from this green fund, a green climate fund based in Korea, headquartered in Korea, and they also give $50 million grants for the project. And altogether, 570 million, as I said, but 300 million of them will be raised locally from the stakeholders, construction companies, those who is going to live there. So there will certainly be certain schemes involved. One is a land and apartment swapping concept. Those who owns land, they can voluntarily swap their land with apartments. Agreed certain price level, and they will agree. So this time, hope it will work.
And just kind of a topic that's related to this housing is, what is our current mortgage program like that will assist with this?
Current mortgage program, yeah, this program, well, if you see how many people got, almost 100,000 people got apartments, and the total balance of this subsidized mortgage alone is about 4.2 trillion 2 weeks. Impressive number. But however, this one is not exactly tend to meet the demand of people living in Gir district, which is the major solution of carbon dioxide in the air. In winter we have terrible smoke in the city, so it is not going to be a solution because they are not reducing the people living in Gir. The program, the current subsidized mortgage program at 8% was mostly designed to sell apartments, expensive apartments, by construction company and by banks who finance those things. So at the end, it looks like because when bank issue own mortgage, right, from own sources, they issue at the interest rate of 16%. But government issues at 8%. The difference mostly paid from the taxpayers' money. So this program did not work well, but however, the housing demand is so high. For example, 90% of those who got the subsidized mortgage loan, they bought apartments with the size of less than 80 square meter. So this big chunk of demand is there. One. Secondly, there are almost 100,000, 92.6 thousand people borrowed this money, this mortgage, you got the mortgage, but 65% of those people have a family income per month less than 2 million tugriks. So you see how much the people look for small size, cheaper apartments. So that's why this ADB project is really meeting that demand and kind of setting new standards, I think, for the affordable housing.
And previously, the Bank of Mongolia actually granted their own loans, which they have begun now the process of transferring these mortgage loans to the government. So what should we expect from this transfer?
Well, from the beginning, this project was anyway subsidized by the state. And slowly now the balance sheet is transferred, all assets transferred now, the state balance. That's what they mean. And from January 1st next year, all taxpayers will pay the difference of that mortgage, discounted so-called mortgage loan. And this government had promised to continue this program, so they cannot cut. But however, they cannot certainly provide more than 300 or so billion tugriks for this program, which is already 4.2, as I said, trillion tugriks. So the government cannot go as before with that wider range. So don't expect that too much. But the project like ADB is setting good standard, that the people now swapping their land or to be a part of the whole project. They will have houses with normal planning, urban planning. They have access to gardens, probably services, shops, and also jobs. So hopefully this will, finally this project will set good standard. You see, because Singapore, for example, they were a very poor country at the end of 50s. But they provided immediately very affordable, very small units for all citizens. Some bought, some rented, but later on when the economy goes up, they have been extending, expanding, and they had better apartments, that's all. Now they have wonderful apartments all around this small city town. But however, there is still one problem in Mongolia remaining, which is land registration. Who owns, who possesses, who uses. There is no clear government inventory. That's what they decided to do from last week. But without the people knowing whose land this particular land is, the things cannot go. For example, Mongolian governments were, all the decision makers were giving land permission under the table, under the corruption to limited connected individuals. Good example is our South Bogd Mountain. Each valley was sold under the table because we don't know, the government is refusing to announce. And these people who bought or under the table these lands are now selling it piece by piece, and only a few people are benefiting from all our land. So under these conditions, any housing project is going to be either very expensive or it is coming with a lot string attached. So I don't know how, until Mongolia is altogether united with the same voice, demand the government to be transparent on our land registration, on our land ownership, I don't think on the other, however, these problems of housing will be solved completely. Whatever amount of housing we create, but still this one is staying a taboo in this government.
Mm-hmm. And our second topic of the night is the case of the missing 340,000 tons of coal. According to Parliament member Inkbot, 268.3 thousand tons of coal was stolen from Tawantalaga, but however, after a formal investigation, it was discovered that the amount was actually 340,000 tons. So what exactly is happening here?
Terrible. Mongolia, we know that a lot dinosaurs, bones we have gone through the border secretly. Mm-hmm. I mean, they did not fly, definitely. They could fly only 200 or 300 million years ago. Mm-hmm. So their bones are now cannot fly, so they were in peace, somehow smuggled through the border. Mm-hmm. And now 340,000 tons of coal smuggled. And in the process of investigation, they found out, the investigation group was headed by Minister of Finance, Hurd Batar. They found out that for the last 4 years, since 2013 through 2017, our border police is giving one information about the cars the trucks cross the border, south border, mm-hmm. But the customs giving also different statistics. One is 845, the other is 814,000 trucks cross. So now question is coming, how come these two government agencies giving information with 35,000 cars mistakes? Mm-hmm. So that is a big question, and the big question is for the people we need to ask, do we have border at all? Do we have any control at that border? Why we have missed these thousands of cars with the coal gun that's on the border side? So from there, they were following, investigating, and they found out there are several companies on the current territory, the land of Tawantalaga. Erdenes Tawantalaga is state-owned company. There is an inside smaller company called the local Tawantalaga. It's also a public company since 1994, and it's owned 51% by IMAG, South Kobe IMAG, 49% by many individuals, but the largest shareholder is Ajnai Corporation. And that corporation belongs to former Minister of Defense, former Parliament member Batirtin. And it turned out this Batirtin Ajnai Corporation has a company called Tawantalaga Trans. It is a transport company, trucks, exclusively, monopoly, carrying all coals from that small piece of, not small, but it's quite large there. Mm-hmm. From that area, they were transporting all coals through the border. And now it turned out they have 35,000, their trucks are not registered. So the question is coming even bigger. What happened and how it can happen? Why the border police is giving one information, the customs giving another information? So how capable is the Mongolian government to run the country? So these big issues are coming now, and hope that we will have the proper answers. But I doubt very much, because like many other corruption cases, this case will disappear shortly, or I mean slowly. They will disappear. We will forget that, like our smoke we forget in summer.
And there's another kind of news surrounding Tawantalaga is that supposedly Tawantalaga has been operating without a work plan for the past 6 years. So how is it possible to operate?
That's amazing, terrible news. How can a mining company work without work plan, which is supposed to be given or obtained by each mining production company from the government, including the environmental agency, about the environmental damage, the technology of production of the mine, because it has a very clear, very long-term plan approach of production. And they somehow gone for 6 years without that plan. What does it mean? That means they can dig any part of the mine. Doesn't matter, I mean, not thinking about maybe about 20 years ahead. They can dig and produce any coal. It's open pit, so they can produce coal from anywhere because there's no plan. One, even they have been producing coal from other companies' land. That's the dispute about why the whole thing started. Because Ernesto Hontalva said that we are missing coal from the area that belongs to our license. They are adjacent to areas, but they have been, because they have no work plan, they have been not only digging wherever they want on their own licensed land, but also in Ernesto Hontalva. So how come? Where is the standard? Where is the enforcement agency? It's ridiculously, it is too much. So we should not allow this kind of things further. You know, I also visited this website of that company. No information about this public company, and all their information should be there quarterly. And there is no information about 2017 production. No report. How about the public, the shareholders? Other than these two large ones, there are some over 1,000 other smaller shareholders all around the country. So they are not providing information. And where is this FRC, this FRC, Financial Regulatory Commission? What are they doing? Whether they are doing their jobs or not. But do they protect the interests of these minor shareholders? Not only about this company, also in general of all public company informations are not fully is there on their website. So in that conditions, how are you going to talk about development of capital market in the country? So all these authorities, related authorities to all these cases are not doing their jobs. That's a huge problem in Mongolia.
And so moving on to our third topic of the evening was that the foreign minister of China, as well as and he is also the state councillor, Wang Yi, paid Mongolia a visit on August 23rd until August 25th. So during the visit, there were discussions to strengthen the partnership between China and Mongolia, and as well as to discuss issues about the regional and border cooperations. So the foreign minister met with some of the governors of the western provinces. So what is the significance of this?
Well, let's see first the bigger picture. Why Mr. Wang Yi was visiting western part of Mongolia, meeting 5 local provinces governors, because he is not only Minister of Foreign Affairs, he also a state councillor. There are 9 very powerful decision makers in the state of China. There are councillor members, and so he is how we call it. He has double bid. He has that higher ranking position, then the lowering relative to that position, the foreign minister, not only minister but also state councillor, right? He was nominated or elected last March when all China leadership is changed or refreshed. And in that capacity, he is to follow what we have agreed, 2 countries have agreed, under, for example, the soft loan of $1 billion soft loan from China. And large chunk of this soft loan is $300 million waste processing unit of Ulaanbaatar. And he was opening. There was an opening ceremony of that plant was held, and our Prime Minister Hurusuk and that State Councillor Wang Yi were there. That's one thing what he did. The second one was he visited also, there's a special exit in airport for people, road and belt passengers. Those people who are working on the project have a special access to Mongolian border. So that's, he have visited, like, you know, this APEC exit is entrance, APEC entrance at airports of all APEC member countries are there, which the procedure is very fast. Meanwhile, you are standing very in long queue. Here, you just go through, and it is good service for the people. So it shows how Mongolia is paying special attention to this road and belt project. The third, he had visited this disabled people, disabled children development construction, development center construction. This was also, all these projects were under the Chinese financing. But back to this 5 IMAX, there is a lot issues existing there in terms of cross-border trading for people crossing the border. That's why they have met.
And as you mentioned, like one of the visits was to these provincial governors, meeting was with the governors of the Western provinces. So do you know exactly what was discussed about like strengthening the border control?
Yes, I have checked it, and I even called one of the governors and what was his impression, etc. And it turned out, well, first of all, Mongolia is now economically almost 100% dependent on China, on trade with China. Mongolian foreign trade turnover is around $10 billion last year, and 6.8 billion belongs only to China. And our trade with China has a positive balance. But our trade with Russia is very much negative balance. We buy from Russia over $1.5 or so billion fuel, gasoline. We sell very few amount of our products, which mostly agricultural products, or Kashmir, wooden products, etc. So, so de facto, Mongolian economy depends on China. And now even more, because we are now borrowing more money from China, because this is the only available, other than development agencies, fund. In the western part in particular, the countries depend on the border, on the trade across the border. Why? It's closer, because now our 5 western IMAX, which is Ofs, Zavkhan, Baying Ulgi, Hovd, Altai. Those provinces, total population is 400,000 people. And they are closer to Chinese border than to Ulaanbaatar. So they buy things, foods, many things from China. And that border, Bulgan Sum, we call it Bulgan border. China call it Tixken border. But this border is with the Xinjiang province. Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Province, where they have also own problems, cases of separatism, terrorism, and that border with us is particularly checked by Chinese border police, customs, etc. I was there once a couple of years ago, very hard to cross, and now there's Mongolian traders go there, then they impose tariffs unexpectedly, etc. And also because this terrorist issue, possible terrorism issue, they are strengthening all this checking systems. So Mongolians were so much complaining about that to the center, Ulaanbaatar, and our Ministry of Foreign Affairs, who is also responsible for foreign trade. They have to address this issue. So they invited Mr. Wang Yi to visit Western Province and meet these people upon their requests. So now what he did was, he took with him the deputy governor of Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, which never visited Mongolia before, and which was given certain tasks immediately on the spot to solve that problems. And also he brought also the deputy trade minister of China, which was also keen because these 5 AMECs are planning to export meat. 2 reasons from there, because there are more herds there too on one side. On the other side, there is less this animal disease. So they are going to produce meat to the level that Chinese demand, and most probably they will cross that border. Another point is, there are 3 corridors across Mongolia of international importance. One is the middle, now a railway, now road, etc. But on the western province, there are, through these 5 provinces, the big road corridor is almost finished. It's a very high quality, very good road, outer road. But if, say, international trade goes, the Chinese and Mongolian border the border cross is not ready for services for third country citizens. They are not ready for all these trucks, transports, which supposedly to go from China. Logically, it can go from Pakistan. This road can come from Pakistan, through China, through Mongolia, through Russia, and it can go to London, theoretically. But of course, there are a lot of things to solve. I think it is this visit's importance is also to address these issues, to prepare this border for this kind of big volume in the future. So that's why.
Thank you. Well, thank you for joining us for this week's DeFacto Review. Please join us next week at the same time for another weekly roundup of the biggest stories shaping Mongolia. Good night.
Thank you very much.